significantly more brutal than her friend Maddie. The two girls were found together in an upstairs room of that off-campus home, but not much else is known about the extent of their injuries, particularly the other two students who were killed in the floor below them. Joining me now to talk more about the investigation, Tracy Walder, a former CIA officer and FBI special agent, and Lauren Mathias, former news reporter and the host of the podcast Hidden, a true crime podcast. To you both, we appreciate your time this morning. There's a lot of new information coming out about the crime scene. Whether or not it's helpful or it further complicates the work for investigators is yet to be seen. But let's start with the new piece of information that Kaylee's injuries were significantly more brutal. Tracy, let me start with you. What does that tell you? Is that helpful information for investigators as they're trying to determine if she was perhaps the target?
Thank you for having me, Marnie. Yes, I think that that's incredibly important information. That's something I've said all along, and that's how they would differentiate whether this was a targeted attack or not, is that one victim may have had significant overkill more so than others. And since Maddie and Kaylee were known to be sleeping in the same bed at this time, it tells me that really Maddie may have just simply been in the way, more of a crime of opportunity, and Kaylee really would have been the target here. And I think that's very critical to investigators in terms of really figuring out what the motive was, who her inner circle was, or even just outside of that inner circle. So I think it helps them in terms of narrowing down the investigation because they do have this overabundance of evidence.
Well, and Lauren, let me bring you in here because when I talk about further complicating it, they're in Maddie's room. So if Kaylee was the intended target, these two girls, best friends, many describe them as being almost like sisters. They looked very much alike as well. It was in the middle of the night. It was likely dark. So investigators have to determine, was the killer in the right room as well?
Yeah, I think that Brian Enton made a great case for saying that this room was on the top floor without an easy entrance. Maddie and the room Maddie and Kaylee were in, and I think that also plays to them being the likely target. And I think that as she pointed out, Kaylee is the likely target if she has more significant injuries. And I think that they actually went up to the third floor. And as Kaylee's dad said, he didn't need to go up there. He didn't need to go up there. And I think that also plays into this idea that these girls were absolutely targets and most likely Kaylee.
Well, the other thing, Tracy, is there appeared to be no forced entry, right? There's still some question about whether there were locks on the door from the inside or the out, if they were keyed locks or had a code on them. But at least we know that the room that Maddie and Kaylee were in was locked from the outside the next day. Does that indicate to you that the killer locked it on the way out?
So yes, that does indicate to me that someone locked it on the way out, whether it was the killer or someone else. We truly don't know. I do fully agree, and this is sort of what I've said all along, particularly when going over the floor plan of the house. This person made a conscious effort to walk up those stairs. And it's hard to know, again, we're dealing with college students, right? And it's hard to know, yes, they had individual keypads, and yes, they had locks on their doors, but we don't know for sure if they actually locked those doors. I've been in college before. I teach college students, and this is something that unfortunately we do. And so there were no signs of forced entry. I think it's been widely reported that back slider on the second floor was consistently left open. And so that may have been an entry or an egress point.
But does it tell you, and Lauren, you can answer this, that the killer may have been familiar with the home when investigators are trying to determine if it was targeted?
I think so, and I'm having a hard time hearing you, Marnie. I am so sorry. Something happened to my audio. But yes, I absolutely think that this victim could have known the home, or sorry, this perpetrator, this killer could have known the home, could have known the victims, could have been familiar with the home, been to the home before, which is also going to make it very complicated for investigators as they collect DNA. I do think that this was likely a targeted attack. I with everyone who believes in that. And I think that the fact that this was allegedly a party house and allegedly a house where many people came, I think they knew this house. I think they knew the victims. And I think that is a big possibility.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider.